Tulsi Gabbard, of those candidates that have announced at this point, and those that have, I think a reasonable chance of at the very least influencing the election, if not possibly winning the primary. Tulsi Gabbard, in some respects, is the least known, it seems to me, from a broad perspective. Part of that is because she is from Hawaii. Part of it is because she's a congresswoman, as opposed to so far senators that we have that have jumped in the race. And she, in some aspects, I'm talking about from a perspective of the left, she is in some quarters of the left, quite a champion. Not the least of which because she was quite strong in her support of Bernie Sanders in the 2016 primary. But let's take a look at, and you've written a piece about her, some of her affiliations that seem on some level to implicate her foreign policy choices too, because I think broadly speaking, she is perceived to be anti-war. I'm not sure if that's, and you'll tell me if that assessment, how accurate you think that assessment is. But you did a piece that really looked into her relationship with Hindu nationalists. Where does that story start?
So thank you for that question, Sam. I absolutely agree with you that Tulsi Gabbard has been a champion of the left in a lot of progressive circles on a lot of counts, and rightly so, because her voting record has been very clean on a lot of topics. She's very cool. She wants to legalize marijuana. She quit for Bernie Sanders, et cetera, et cetera. So, there's a lot of good that she has earned with the left, with the left here. But the story of Tulsi Gabbard's links to Narendra Modi and her ties to Modi supporters is a very interesting one, in that in 2011, before Tulsi Gabbard's primary, when people in Hawaii did not know her very well, there were certain people from the larger, circle of Hindu nationalists or people who are in an executive capacity heading those organizations that are linked, or that are the U.S. counterparts of Hindu nationalist organizations in India. These people were funding her campaign. And these are not just members of organizations that are linked to Indian nationalist organizations. These are executives of those organizations. And it is very interesting because Hawaii, as a state, is not native to Indian Americans at all. Indian Americans, the diaspora population lives mostly in New York, New Jersey on the East Coast, and then on the West Coast, California, Texas, Illinois, these places mostly. So it was very interesting how that relationship came about. Now, of course, it's now,
Soumya, but before. Forgive me for interrupting, but I mean, for the sake of our audience who may not have any familiarity with just even what Hindu nationalists are, let's just back up a little bit. And when we say Hindu nationalists, who and what are we talking about?
So we have a democratically elected right-wing government in power in India, led by Narendra Modi. He is the prime minister, and he fights election from a party called the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is a right-of-center party in India, which gets its ideological inspiration from a host of other organizations in India. The most important organization being the RSS, which is the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, which is called the ideological parent or the father of the BJP. Now, including Prime Minister Modi, the current president of India, and many other, at least 50% of his current cabinet have been members of the RSS at some point, have been, and they call themselves lifelong volunteers of this organization. So it's an ideological organization. This organization is also, it was formed in the 1920s, and that it's it calls itself a social organization working for the upliftment of Hindus, but it's a paramilitary organization. They have a uniform. They have daily drills with weapons, sticks, etc. At the core of the ideology of this organization is to create a Hindu state, which is a state bereft of India's minority populations, if not completely purging them, relegating them to a status of second-class citizens. Now, when we say India's minority populations, we are talking about the world's second largest Muslim population, a very sizable Christian population, a very, origin of the Sikh faith in the world, and so on and so forth. So this is the ideological basis of the RSS. It was very strangely, not as opposed to British colonial rule as India's current opposition party and also its oldest party, the Indian National Congress. An RSS member killed Mahatma Gandhi because he thought that Mahatma Gandhi was too soft on Muslims, and so on and so forth. Now, the RSS has been known and has been implicated in staging pogroms in India, including mass murder of around 800 Muslims. These are state figures in the western state of Gujarat in the year 2002, when Modi was the then chief minister or the head of that government in Gujarat.
I'm sorry, you said. I just wanted to just be clear. He at that point was a top official of the RSS at the time of this. Okay. Could you go back over that? Because I wasn't quite sure I followed that part.
So, sure. So Modi was the elected representative of the Gujarat government. He was representing the BJP, but under his watch, the riots took place in which a lot of international and national bodies have condemned Modi for not doing enough to stop the violence.
I see.
And the United States, on that account, denied him a visa he wanted to enter the United States in 2005, which was 3 years after the riots. And the United States refused because of his human rights record. And that ban was ultimately lifted in 2014 when he became the Prime Minister of India with a thumping majority. And, because of state-to-state relations, the United States cannot afford to not talk to India, which is the world's largest democracy and a key ally in foreign policy. So
I just want to make sure that people, that we absorb this specific aspect of Modi's background, that the U.S. government, were it not for his status as prime minister, this is someone who would be denied entry into the United States because of United States understanding and perspective that he essentially allowed for this mass killing to take place. I mean, literally look the other way, and so and that's a considerable, obviously not maybe to a certain extent a legal one, but a pretty severe indictment of this guy's record, right? And it's indicative of just how virulent this level of nationalism is. Okay, well, let's take a break there. So we have a sense of what we're talking about when we talk about Modi. We have the United States dealing with him, obviously, to some extent reluctantly, but obviously necessarily, because he is the prime minister of India, and India is obviously a huge player on the national stage. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Soumya Shankar as we discuss Tulsi Gabbard's relationship with Hindu nationalists. We'll be right back after this.